Hello, darling. I'm here today to help you learn how to make your flax meal bread for all of those moving moments. Firstly, we've put the oven on. It's sitting at 220. We're going to take a cup of flax meal and put it in our mixing bowl. Come with me on the journey. So 1 cup. Doesn't need to be sieved. I like to put all the dry ingredients in first. So 1 cup of your flax meal, followed by you want to put in a half a teaspoon of baking soda or baking powder. This helps activate the bread. I like to use paprika as well. It gives it a nice flavour. This is smoky paprika, and I usually use a good teaspoon full of smoky paprika, heaped. And then I also like to use garlic, ground garlic, because that gives it a nice flavour. And you can use another heaped teaspoon of that. And literally that is your first stage. Now, if you've got sesame seed, you can use sesame seed as well. I don't have any today, so I'm going to cook this without sesame seed. So you've got all your dry ingredients, and they literally look like this in a container. There you go. The next thing we do is we're going to melt some coconut oil, organic coconut. Here we go. I like to get a couple of very big spoonfuls of this. So I just use quite a big spoon and you pump it out. Now the reason I use coconut oil is that I find eggs make it a little cakey. You can use eggs if you like. Olive oil doesn't give it as much bind. And I like the taste of coconut oil. So I use that also. I think it's a little bit healthier. Or maybe not, who knows. Here we go. So I just put in kind of like a, in the measuring cup, it's very loose. Probably more like 3/4 of a cup. And I put that in my microwave because you want to use that melted. If you don't have a microwave, pop it on the oven, on the stove top, and do that. The next thing you do while you're doing your coconut oil is you make sure your kettle's boiled, because you're going to add hot water into this as well. The other thing I have is a baking tray, and I've put baking paper on it, and that is I use the greener be brown baking paper, and that's a really vital thing to make sure you've got it doesn't stick to your pan. Clean hands. This is where it becomes a little bit of a challenge. You can get a little hurt with this if you're not careful, and that is making sure you've got clean hands, because you've got to use them to mix up a lot of your product. So here we go. Now the oil hasn't melted 100%, so I just get my spoon in there and break it up. Because you don't want big clumps of your coconut oil with you. I hope you're cooking alongside with me today. And the other thing we're going to do is fill this, and it's come down to about 1/3 of a cup. That's all you need. You don't need a lot of oil. And I'm going to add in the boiling water, and that's going to take it up to quite to over a cup full of liquid. Literally, this stuff just clags up. Wait till you see what happens as soon as you add the moisture to it. Just waiting for the kettle to boil, sorry. How are you today? You good? Enjoying this little baking episode? Couple more minutes. Sometimes the coconut oil with a little bit of work just breaks down. So it's breaking down more. And as soon as I get the boiling water in there, you'll see the difference. Okay, so there's our mixture that you can see. Kettle's come to the boil. I like to add in about a cup and a bit more. So well over a cup. And as you pour it in, it can just go all the way in. And then you start stirring it around. Now, it thickens up really, really, really quickly and becomes quite claggy. So if you can see that, I'm trying to make sure I've got all of it beaten in really nicely. If it's too hard to move, if it doesn't seem to be, if it's too dry, just more water on it. I find you can add tons of water into this and it doesn't seem to matter. That's the flax expanding. You have to use hot water because you need it to expand. You need it to activate the baking powder. Just a little bit of more. Cut that in. Yeah, see how interesting that looks? And then we're going to just pour it onto our baking tray. Like that. Now, this is the bit that can get a bit painful. I like to have wet hands because you want to push that into your tray. And if your hands are dry, it sticks to your hands. It's also hot, so sometimes you can do it with a spoon, but you get a better control when you use your hands. Now, what I like about this process is that you can take your time. You smooth it in. You make it nice and thin. Oh yeah. Right up into the corners. And then you get to see how thick it is around the edges. Now, the thicker it is, the less I like it. So I like to make it as thin as possible, especially around the corners because you don't want it too bready-like. And when your hands start to stick, just make them all wet again because it's so much easier to push it into edges. And make it more even. There we have it. All right, that's how good it gets for me. I'm now going to pop it into the oven. Here we are, back. Hello. Here we go, going into my oven. Oh, I've got tons of other things in the oven too, which is not going to be very helpful because you don't want to stop the heat. Take this baby out. So the Baroness Deluxe is going to do her thing, and we're just going to set that timer for 20 minutes. So that's sitting at 220, 20 minutes. We'll be back and check it out after that.